So Carrie, in lesson 1 we talked about how to size an experiment based on your practical significance, your statistical significance, and the sensitivity you want. What do we need to update about that based on what we've covered since then?
Well, we have a couple of things that we've just looked at. Your choice of metric, your choice of the unit of diversion, and your choice of population, and all those things can affect the variability of your metric. So you want to take all this stuff into account and then start to determine the size based on the process that we talked about before, and then you're going to have to figure out if what you've planned to do is really realistic given how long you have to run the experiment and the variability of your metrics.
Okay, can you give me an example?
Well, let's think about what we talked about before, the page load time, the 90th percentile latency. Now, originally you could measure that in an event-based diversion because you just measure each page load time. But let's say we now say, okay, we want to also look at a user ID diversion where we look at whether that user uses our site more or less based on the latency that they're experiencing. Now, that's a little more challenging as a metric because you're going to need a fair amount of user data to make that work. And if you were originally planning to run this globally, you may realize looking at the variance of your metrics that that's just not really realistic. It's going to take a very long time to get a lot of data. It's a big investment. So you may want to go back and say, you know what, I'm really affecting the 90th percentile here. That's what I'm targeting. So let's look at people with slow connections. And then maybe because I need to get enough data, I want to look at a cohort of users who have used my site fairly regularly over the past 2 months. And that way I can get more data about them more quickly. And so while this restriction may give you a smaller scope to your project, it can really give you a better sense of whether you're going to get a signal out of this experiment at all before you invest the time and the user time in actually running a much larger experiment.